I've nothing particularly for or against Arsenal fans, nothing particularly for or against most English clubs. I just find all of English football really interesting. I really enjoy watching it, and I love my European club competition football as well. So I don't speak from a place of pro Arsenal bias when I say I was a bit upset that Arsenal fans and Arsenal players were taking a slagging for celebrating the fact they'd reached the Champions League final on Tuesday night. I mean, beating Atletico Madrid in any competition, Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid is a fact worth celebrating, a major result for any club in the planet, and also to get to the final of the world's most difficult to win, most prestigious club tournament. Well, when you can't celebrate that, football is just over altogether. It's somebody whose greatest moment supporting his team was us winning a Europa League semi-final, and probably the second greatest moment was when it was the UEFA Cup final a few years before that. UEFA Cup, to get into the UEFA Cup final, just two semi-final wins in Europe. Basically, is what I'm saying is the greatest moments in my life supporting Rangers. So yeah, I totally sympathise with the Arsenal fans losing it in the best possible way on Tuesday night. But I think what didn't help was headlines. I had this getting repeated on Amazon Prime's coverage, and I saw it on the BBC Sports website. It was framed as Arsenal reached their first Champions League final in 20 years. And it's like, oh, Arsenal, who always reach it feels like Arsenal always reached the Champions League final, and then they went for 20 years without reaching the Champions League final. So yeah, maybe it is worth celebrating, but really it's just the end of a long run of failure. No, that's only Arsenal's second ever European Cup or Champions League final. In the long history of Europe's top club competition, Arsenal had only reached the final once before. And that was in 2006. That was 20 years ago. So context, applying a bit of context. Really, it's like Rangers have chucked the title. Rangers have thrown away the league title. But for how long this season did it really look like we were going to win the league title? Oh, don't worry, don't worry. If you want to hear Danny Röhl getting it tight, if you want to hear Rangers getting it tight, there will be plenty of that again. But we're at that same bloody situation again. It was October, September, August, even really. We're doing the same thing with Russell Martin, and here we are again, before we're even really properly into May, applying context, analysing stuff. Give me the reasons not to sack him. Are we merely cracking eggs just now? It's the omelette delayed, the permanently delayed omelette that is Ibrox league title success. Is hitting us again. How you doing, folks? This is your fat egg. The only reason I don't feel utterly suicidal is because we usually chuck it sooner than this in the season, and because it feels like we just go out the bottom six of the league, so I can't be too fussed if we don't actually win the league. And most of all, Celtic still aren't favourites to win the title, and that's a lovely wee change. But I still feel like scum for wanting Hearts to end our title chances arithmetically before we take the Parkhead pitch in an Old Firm derby on Sunday, just because I don't trust us Rangers to stop Celtic winning the title. Alistair Lamont says it's time for soul searching after yet another Ibrox failure. So let's search our souls. Our souls, arseholes are where most of the opinions are coming from since that defeat on Monday. How are you feeling about life these days? Your midweek check-in podcast coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet, still up on the Gersnet YouTube channel. I got it wrong in my throes of depression on Monday night's post-match reaction pod. I said after the Hearts game, the Gersnet podcast was on Monday night, and it was Scott and Alan, but it actually went out on Tuesday night. So last night, as I'm recording this, on Wednesday night. So check it out. Very good podcast that they're having at it. Scott, it's not Scott Allen as the best pass of a far better podcast than that pass Scott Allen had. It's Scott and Alan doing the Gersnet reaction to what happened and what didn't happen at Tynecastle on Monday night. So check that out. I'm sponsored by Gersnet, and I'm also sponsored by David Beckham, because watching Arsenal against Atletico Madrid on Amazon Prime on Tuesday night, he's advertising absolutely everything else bar this podcast. So fuck it, bend it like Eckham's sponsored by David Beckham. So I'm Eckham sponsored by Fat Eckham, sponsored by David Beckham. Bend it like Fat Eckham. So my name's Alec Anderson. I don't wanna talk about it, how you broke my heart. If I stay here just a little bit longer, if I stay here, won't you listen to my heart? Because I'm certainly sick of listening to the hearts. Not really. Nah, fair play to them. Fair play to the Gorgie Maroons, to the old Jambolinos, but that's how desperate things I've got. That's how desperate things I've got that I'm singing Rod Stewart songs. Obviously, that was the Tracy Thorn, Everything But the Girl version I was doing there. Perfect rendition. You'd have caught that from the way I sang it. But it's just also, obviously, it's things are so desperate that I'm singing songs made famous by that Conservative as a Reform voter, now Parkhead's True Blue regular, Mr. Rod Stewart. But I don't want to talk about it, but I feel as if I've got to. I mean, how do you want Hearts to get on Saturday night? I think that's a big tester. How do you actually want Hearts to get on Saturday night? Are you going to check your phone 10 o'clock Saturday night and see that Hearts have lost at Fir Park, which they're very, very likely to do against Motherwell? Are you thinking, yeah, beauty, we're still in this? This could actually still happen. We could still win this league. This is what we want. Rangers go tomorrow. We beat Celtic at Parkhead to go a point. Or are you thinking, Christ, no, Celtic are going to win the league? I'm in the very much Celtic are going to win the league if Hearts don't category. So this horrible thing about actually wanting Rangers to lose the league, arithmetically, before we go into a game against Celtic, because it's terrible. We obviously need to talk about this. People have been calling for Danny Röhl's head. I think I've got that indifferent feeling. I was talking to Andy, a legend of the Fat Egg podcast, and Andy, as he always did, as so many of you do, and that's why I'm doing this podcast, folks. I feel as if the one result you can get, the one result you deserve this season is to get shorter podcasts from me. I was saying to Andy how my ramblings, my thing of trying to get rid of the ambulance chasers, and a post-match reaction pod in a game where Rangers have slipped up. I like to ramble on about a very boring subject. It's actually it's lost all its meaning now because it's for me. I'm actually doing it because I don't want to get round to talking about Rangers. I don't want to have to deal with the details of the game. It's actually working for me. It's getting me used to talking again in a normal tone of voice after the abuse I'll be thrown at the television watching that defeat at Tynecastle the other night. It wasn't really abuse, it's just... But the one thing I could maybe do is throw you a wee short pod here and there, but things just keep getting epic, don't they? My excuse for having done so many long pods recently is, James Tavernier, our greatest servant, probably the 21st century. He's away, he's gone, he's announced he's leaving. We're going into the top six, and we've got a chance of winning the league here. This is major stuff. What's happening? Everybody's talking. There's so much that we need to get into. If you're going to call yourself, I don't call myself a Rangers podcaster, but you know what I mean, I'm a podcaster whose the main thing in life is supporting Rangers. If you're really going to be that kind of guy, then you need to talk about these things. You need to go on about them and meet the requirements of the news about Rangers, where you chat about it. And I'm like, well, now we're at the title race. It looks like we're at the title race, but never this season. You just don't know, and that's the horribly annoying thing about it. But now that it looks like we're out the title race, that it's all over for us, the least I could do is give you wee short pods. Do a wee bit tonight, so that your preview pod for the game at Parkhead on Sunday is nice and short as well. Give your ears a break. But no, we go straight into, should we sack the manager? Should we get somebody else in? Danny Röhl's a dead man walking, thought a thumbnail on the algorithm was saying just a few hours ago. And at least, if nothing else, it's good to talk. We can share. I'm checking in with you guys, but can you just check in with me? New manager, personality versus project, punch versus patience. Who would we even want in the door? I don't think that the 49ers, Andrew Cavan and that, can fail to have been impressed by what Derek McInnes, who only got a few points less this time 10 years ago as Aberdeen manager, finishing clearly in second place, way still behind Celtic. At the time we went out of last season out of the top flight in Scotland. He's only got a few points more than that just now, but they can't have failed to be impressed by what this man has done. Derek McInnes, who's an established name, scorned a lot of times by Rangers supporters as just no Rangers management material, particularly after we offered him the job and he knocked us back. He's never good enough for us anyway. Concomitant. And also, I think, but you can't ignore the fact that Martin O'Neill, the job it's 70 years old, the job Martin O'Neill has done at Celtic, the two different times he's come in there this season, If Martin O'Neill had been at Celtic the whole season, I think it was Johnny McFarlane. Sorry, I'm repeating something I heard on Rangers Review, but it doesn't make it any less true that if he'd been there all season, I think it's something we've all thought as Rangers supporters, if he'd been there all season, he'd probably have won the bloody treble, Martin O'Neill. So, well, the Scottish Cup's in the bag as it is. He'd have the treble in the bag as it is at this point in the season. So I don't think there can have been that kind of escaped the notice of Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathi, both in the director's box at Tynecastle on Monday night, looking very concerned. RBA project, Danny Röhl's been a young man. He is a young manager leading a project, whereas a lot of Rangers supporters want to have. Who's been? I mean, Steven Gerrard. His name keeps coming up, and there's probably a feeling that now we've got rid of Thelwell and Stewart, they would have been a hindrance to Steven Gerrard taking the job. That was the unstated reason for Steven Gerrard not taking the job. That was the subtextual reason for it when he knocked us back in October. Maybe they're out the way now. Maybe we could get Steven Gerrard, and we've seen what happened with Frank Lampard at Coventry. I mean, we've lost all chance of ever getting Frank Lampard now. He's going to be Premier League clubs will be calling for him now that he is a Premier League club manager. But it kind of justifies the idea that you get in somebody who's had a good playing career and also has done a certain amount in management. He's got a bit more experience, perhaps Danny Röhl, who only got into management and coaching the way he did, as early as he did, because an injury ruined his playing career in the German lower leagues. So that's been. Bertoascu has been put forward as another. Jens Bertoascu of Motherwell has been put forward as another candidate. I just think no. He's a really bitter guy, and that's maybe what we're wanting just now. And we always want our managers to be angry as we are in press conferences and that, but he's angry enough as Motherwell manager when they beat Rangers. It seems vengeance in his eyes. He seems kind of small time, and he's got the same ideas. I think he went to the same training courses as Russell Martin, so it seems crazy to get him in now. When we get rid of Russell Martin at Motherwell, that stuff was given a chance to breathe, and it's worked fantastically well for Motherwell. It seems, well, proportionately, he gets more resources, better class of player at Rangers. It's going to work even better at Rangers. That's not the metric that managerial success works by. I think what he's doing is aimed at small clubs. It's a kind of Bodo Glimt type of football that he's playing. He's total control in a way that he'd never get at Rangers. He'd never get the time at Rangers. There's so many demands on you as coach there. But I don't think he's the answer to what we do. Philip Clement ticks all the boxes right now. He's actually won league titles abroad, really experienced player, been at big clubs, Monaco, some club in Glasgow. It was always hovering about the trophies and the peripheries of the Champions League. Did well with them in Europe as well, and he's got the same qualification as Danny Röhl now, which is stopping a championship heavyweight in England dropping down into League One. Well, he's managed that with Norwich, hasn't he? Spectacularly turned them round, and that's how Danny Röhl, basically that's his CV. And it isn't. Danny Röhl had his time at Bayern and at Red Bull and the German national team doing all his coaching there. But I don't know, where does it stop? For me, we can't keep changing managers is the only consistent. If Danny Röhl gets sacked just now, it'll be the four stands. The four stands at Ibrox, me, you, and now that Tav's away, the only other consistent is going to be we can't keep sacking managers. The phrase we can't keep sacking managers. There's the support, there's Ibrox Stadium, and now that Tav's away, it's going to be the phrase we can't keep sacking managers. That's the only three consistents there's going to be about Rangers' life for over the last kind of 5 years or so, and that's the one thing we keep doing. What peppered, I've got a different feeling to them all being sacked, the whole coaching staff and every player. I couldn't care less if they all left tomorrow. I'm still in that post Tynecastle malaise, just knowing that the title's more than likely not going to be ours now. So I've got that kind of indifferent feeling. I don't really care what happens to anybody, but I'm not thinking. That's feeling. I'm not thinking about what's in. We should always kind of think, so we come up with what's best for Rangers. It's Wednesday, and I'm still depressed about it, but our depression, I think, for a lot of Rangers supporters is flavoured with this. We've done it now, we do this all the time. We always do this. We've done it again this time of the season. We always throw it away. it's a consistent thing with Rangers. So everybody needs to get sacked because they keep doing it. But everybody does keep getting sacked. Danny Röhl wasn't here this time. This is the first time Danny Röhl's been at Rangers at this point in the season. It's the first time most of the squad, most of the players that were on the park the other night, have been here at this time of the season. It's not, we keep doing it, but the consistency in the manager's chair, in the technical area, is inconsistency. It's Barry Ferguson this time last year. It was Philip Clement. The time that the year before that, it was with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. We've had the one and only, Stephen Gerrard's assistant, Michael Beale. Even Gerrard himself in his first 2 seasons. Stephen Gerrard was here for 3 seasons. At the end of that 3rd season, we won the title. 3 full seasons, we won the title. That's the message we need to be taking from the way everything's happened at Rangers. We've got money. For a change, we have money, but at this moment in time, it feels like we're in the middle of the desert. Middle of a desert way, like our pockets are totally weighed down, our trousers are falling down because there's so many pound coins in each of our pockets, but there's nothing to spend it on. Not even a drinks machine or anything. That we don't have any. We just can't find a way to make this all work for us right now, and that's understandably frustrating. But I don't know. First thing to start with, folks, it's just a kind of blast at you. Sorry, I just really want to tell you how I'm feeling, and maybe it'll echo with something you're feeling. The Danny Röhl presser after the game at Tynecastle, in the bowels of Tynecastle, he came across either like a kind of wounded animal or a winded manager, or somebody who was trying to keep his cool. In a situation, he knew it was going to be a blast from the media. He knew the questions that were coming his way. I think it only lasted for less than 6 minutes, and it's on Rangers TV, and I was having a wee look at it there, but it's quite revealing. It was that manager at a crossroads combo of putting it all on his players and almost describing the opposition as lucky. That's come in a few times. It's part of his post-match reaction to the Motherwell defeat, and he was mentioning it again the other night about Hearts, just how they put away the 3 chances they created, they put away 2 of them, kind of thing. And that doesn't go down well. That sounds a bit desperate, and I can't quite make up my mind if he was a dead man walking, or he was just being ultra cool in his delivery because he knew this was a really salient moment of the season, and he was going to have to keep his cool in the kind of media storm. But he said, yeah, it's a huge blow to our title hopes. This is no question mark. I'm making a fool of his German. That's bad on me. So his German interpretation of English. I speak 0 foreign languages. But it's a huge blow to our title hopes. This is no question mark. He wasn't going to argue with that. He's disappointed. It's not enough to play on your best level for just one half. This is something more. It's a big theme of the criticism of Danny Röhl. He told the players at half-time that they'd have to start again in the second half with the same intensity as if it was 0-0. And this is what he demands from his players in the next 3 games. Now, I don't think we want to talk about the next 3 games just yet, Danny. We're going to keep you on what's just happened there at Tynecastle. He told the players at half-time they're going to go for it again. The first half was one of our best away performances against a strong side. We dominated with and against the ball and finding spaces. And then he was getting asked, I think, by Joshua Barry, among others, Joshua Barry of Rangers Review, among others, about what was up with the drop in tempo and performance in the second half. The big question that we're all asking. The big thing as a Rangers supporter, which I think we all share, and we didn't know, we can't have known, but we all felt we knew when Rangers were dominating that first half, but not getting another goal. Like the last quarter of an hour of that first half, we were getting more depressed than I think we actually were when Hearts scored their 2 goals in the second half to turn the score around, to turn the result around. Because we're watching something that it was giving us false hope, and it's a horrible feeling. We're so aware that this hope is probably false that it's almost taunting us. We're all saying, and we didn't know, but we're all saying, we knew it was going to happen in the second half. And Hearts' domination of that game was I've watched most of it back, was very, very small. It was maybe a quarter of an hour total that they actually dominated us in that game. And that was all it took. And yet we knew Hearts were going to do that. Everybody should have known Hearts were going to do that because Hearts have been doing it all season. That's what they do well at Tynecastle. Sometimes they're struggling, but they always make it work. They'll get the point or they'll get the 3 points that they need. They're undefeated at Tynecastle. We all knew this. Get into this game. And a lot of that has involved comebacks, and we knew they would change it, as all teams change against Danny Röhl's Rangers when they're under the cosh, and we felt sure that we weren't going to change, that we weren't going to change ourselves to meet that change from Hearts, and that's what's happened. It gives us all the false idea that we're football experts and that we know more than the manager, and that's when things are bad for the head coach. So that's when things get really bad for any Rangers head coach, when he starts doing things that we think we've seen and we could have prevented, and he has singularly failed to do. So he's been asked to explain that in this press conference, and he made the mistake of coming away with that line: "This is football. This is football." Again, I thought he was using "these things happen in football" line as a way of keeping his players upbeat, that he knows how bad this team are, he knows how bad his squad are, he knows that they're not trained to be using his methods, that he's having to cut and paste, as I've been saying all season, Russell Martin's team with a few of his own ideas and just a handful of his own signings in January, most of who don't play because they're not fit. So he's trying to create that sense of protecting his team, create a sense of forward momentum that will carry us through, kind of blind faith type thing that most football teams need. You need positivity, you need momentum. It's the mentality, and I thought but he seems to believe it now. He seems to believe this. This is football. This is just what happened. Hearts had less to lose in the second half, so they took more risks. That's true, but does that not mean we're then able to exploit that? That should be an absolute goldmine for us when Hearts start taking more risks, because that's the idea of going a goal up. Scoring the first goal was so important, should be so important to us, because we're set up as a counter-attacking team as well. We've got great players in there for the counter-attack. That should be fantastic, but we couldn't take advantage of it. But this is what he said: Hearts had less to lose in the second half, so they took more risks, and this is football. Sometimes it just goes against you. Hearts did Hearts things. He described it as Hearts dominated with the Hearts football. Hearts did Hearts things. He told his players what was coming, how Hearts were going to play. He obviously doesn't have a lot of respect for how Hearts play, the way he was describing it, which is that's a criticism, I think. And an embarrassment for Rangers, really, to have our manager talking like that. But they failed to defend with purpose and pressure, our players. We allowed Hearts to come into areas where they shouldn't be. And the Shanklin goal, I think it was a Shanklin goal, he was saying that almost never happens. You never see that. Like a cross ball like that, getting put away like that. It does if you watch Lawrence Shanklin. Ever. It does if you watch Hearts this season. And I think any team getting the ball to the byline and getting a bit of space from the fullback, defending fullback, they're going to pull the ball back from the byline to an incoming striker. That's a pretty standard move in football. So I was a bit worried by his interpretation of some of the things that happened in the game. I like Danny Röhl. I don't want to make out that I'm out to get him. And maybe this was just him at his kind of lowest moment, being his defensive, more defensive than he would usually like to be under the pressure of the media barrage. But a lot of this stuff didn't sound too good, and of course he was getting asked about the mentality, and he dealt with it kind of swiftly, almost dismissively, the first time the mentality of the players was brought up, and then once the one media voice insisted upon this point, he said, no, it's just that we have to learn. We have to learn how to play for 95 to 100 minutes at the highest level, but basically we've arrived in the top six, unable to do that yet. Sometimes with his understanding of English, much better than my understanding of German will ever be. I'm not having a go at him about that, but there's little moments where you have to kind of interpret what he's saying, put the square brackets after it, and say what it is you think he's actually meaning to say. But it sounded like there's a lot of improvements we've made in his time at Rangers so far, but not good enough to win the title this year. I think he said that himself. We've just not been good enough to win the title. So he's basically, he was kind of writing off the title. But then I think when he was talking about the Shanklin goal when Hearts, he was on the verge of saying Hearts were lucky, he then said something about, but we should be angry. We should be angry. And that scarily reminded me of when Philippe Clement was failing to get the meaning of going out the Scottish Cup to Queen's Park and then started swearing as a reaction to the fact he could see in the faces of the journalists that Philippe Clement wasn't, it was really in a really bad way, he wasn't given the reaction that's expected of a Rangers manager when losing a game like that. And I think he was feeling Philippe Clement in that moment. Well, it's Queen's Park, put us out of the Scottish Cup, but really, we're all about winning league titles and doing well in Europe, aren't we, at Rangers? Aren't we? Guys, aren't we? No? Oh, well, fucking shit. Oh, God, it was fucking shit. Oh, that was shit. They're in for it. See, when I go back in there, a doing they'll be getting. That's what, it was too late. And I feel as if he did the same thing in the Tynecastle presser the other night. And Danny Röhl, where he was starting to say Hearts were a bit lucky, maybe he saw it in a journalist's face. And he was, but we should be angry. We should be angry. We should be so angry with this kind of stuff. But he says we're not be good enough to win the title this year, but he'll push them again in the right direction for the final 3 games, and there's still 9 points to play for, and he's going to try and get them to perform over 95 to 100 minutes, and that's what he should be doing. He's come in at the end of October with a team that was bought in the image of another manager and a totally different style of playing, and he's just trying to salvage some self-respect for Rangers. So he's actually managed to do that, but he's found himself in a situation where you've got close enough to winning the title that's going to be seen as a catastrophic failure. I think he's trying to say that thing, and not just his, but I mean, Russell Martin ended up just being insulting towards the media, other teams, everybody really. Really kind of patronising and just slightly deranged. It really got to him. But I think it depends. Daniel's trying to say we're just trying to improve things. I don't think he can actually come out and admit, what did you expect? We've done really well to get this far, to get to the point where we can chuck it at the end of the season. He can't say that, but he's also trying to tell us, this is an ongoing thing here. I'm trying to improve what was a car crash at the beginning of the season. So your attitude towards Danny Röhl, his place as Rangers head coach, depends upon, and I hate saying this again, it's the same thing with Russell Martin. It depends upon the metric by which you're judging him. I've said it so many times in the last 5 years. I said it depends what your expectations were, as per Russell Martin. But are we now saying it's the case that Rangers managers, no matter the situation they inherit when they take over, they must be sacked the minute they get us near the top of the table and fail to follow through and actually win the title? Because it didn't happen with Philippe Clement, but the doubts that the skids were under Philippe Clement because he came in October and Michael Beale was making a complete arse of things, and he seemed to have he brought in some stability straight away, some good results, and then we lost at Parkhead, and it's like the league's done. But he then got us back to the top of the league within a month. And I remember saying at the time, standing outside IMAX doing a post-match reaction pod, saying he's now made a rope to hang himself, basically. This is the problem. Are we going to remember this? How well has Philippe Clement done to get Rangers from so far behind Celtic to now in front of them? This is he's definitely going to be good for a couple of seasons, isn't he? He's proved that he should get the job. No, he didn't win the league that season. The minute he got top of the league, he didn't stay there. He's got to go. And Danny Röhl, the minute he was top of the league for a few hours after we beat Dundee United, before Celtic and Hearts played the next day, a few weeks ago, that he hasn't won the league. Now that was the first time he'd had us top of the league the whole time he's been here. But he's got to go now. It's not good enough that he didn't follow through and actually win the title. Is it about judging how well he improved upon the situation he inherited when we were in 8th place when he came in? Or is it like the minute you get Rangers near the top of the league, if you don't win it, it's a disaster, you've got to go? I find we're in 8th. We'd one league win to our name when he joined Rangers at the end of October. And were you honestly thinking then, if he doesn't win this title, I don't want to see him next season? Was that how you were judging Danny Röhl when he came in? I don't know. It feels unfair to judge him that way. It's not what I was looking for. A few things have come up this week. We need more Scots in the team. That's one of the things Rangers Review were punting that line. A lot of Rangers supporters feel the same way. A lot of good Scots, like Rangers legends like Amaruso, Arthur Newman, Gaza, Loudrop. He's Scottish, solid Scottish. Big Phil Hollander, and I thought he was a tremendous. Where was he for Bucky or whatever? I can't remember, but I get this. I get the feeling we need the right Scots in the team. If we're going to get Scots in the team, they need to be the right ones. But there's a massive snobbery towards Scottish signings at Rangers amongst the Rangers support, and I'm really happy. There was no way I wanted him, for example, Lewis Ferguson, to come straight to Rangers from Aberdeen. Not because I didn't think he was good enough. I did want him to play for Rangers, but he had to go somewhere else. England, the top flight in England, minimum. Maybe the Championship would have done if he was really good and really good in the Championship. Down England got a team promoted or something. But him going to Bologna, him going to Serie A, that's perfect. He then becomes, it's like Billy Gilmour. If he ever comes back to Rangers, him having been at Chelsea for 2 minutes would have been enough. We'll not be able to afford Billy Gilmour probably until he's about 38 years old. But if he comes back to Rangers, Billy Gilmour, he's been in Serie A and he's played with Chelsea and played top English team, played with Brighton and all that. That'll be absolutely fine. He's a god. We'll adore him. We'll get right behind him. But I feel as if they have to go abroad before we will accept them. Scots have to prove themselves elsewhere, especially in these days where we can sign anybody from anywhere. But like Romans, I think the nastiness, I think we want somebody who understands the lie of the land. It feels like that. It feels like we need somebody who knows just how much these other teams hate us. Well, apart from anything else, the Hearts team's full of Rangers supporters. So it's no that kind of hatred. No, the Jambos, the fans might hate us, but it's... And I think Steven Gerrard instinctively understood it, as did Graham Souness, two players who'd never stepped into a Scottish dressing room in their entire life. Apart from the Scottish national team with Graham Souness, okay. But they'd never played club football in Scotland. And maybe they could say, okay, well, they had the British mindset, so they understood the British mentality and the particularly bitter aspect you get of it in Scotland and Scottish football. But I think that's just something that happens in any other country. Two Romans come on for a quarter of an hour, I think it ended up being like 20 minutes almost. Quarter of an hour to go, normal time, 7 minutes injury time, 22 minutes he played the other night. And he looked psychotically enraged, two Romans. That'll fucking do for me. He's Belgian. He doesn't have an idea about Rangers, no idea about us whatsoever. But he just has that in him. He has that personality. He has that will to win. He takes defeat as a personal insult. Do John Sterling, Blackpool, and he's the guy that's in the presser after we mess up at Dens Park under Philip Clement, giving it that was just shite. That just wasn't good enough. And people are believing him because he's a dude. It's not about the nationality. It's about the personality. But I don't think you can ever beat a bit of local knowledge. But you go to Stevie Smith there and all that. I don't think it's about having more Scots in the team, and I think this was exacerbated by there's always an incident, there's always something that just makes it unforgivable. That just lets people who want to lose the rag, that's me, able to lose the rag. And we had Nasser Jiga daring to smile after the game. He's having a smile and a laugh, and I noticed it as well. And it's with the Kabari of Hearts, who'd come on as a sub. He's also a Burkina Bay, he's a Burkina Faso international teammate of Nasser Jiga's. That guy's a long way from home. And whatever you say, he's been at Serbia, he's been at Wolves, which is... I've been at Wolverhampton, it's much worse than Belgrade. It seems it's much more of a foreign country. Actually, a lot of good Rangers history, a lot of good Rangers people down that way. If you know your history, oh my God, that's how bad this week's getting. But you can imagine the guys just wanting to chat with his mate, and maybe he doesn't want to look crestfallen. Maybe he doesn't want to be taking a pounding the next time they meet up for Burkina Faso duty. You were pure great at the end of that game at Tynecastle. We done you, maybe no, but it's not a good look. You want to see them. Never mind the cover in the mouth, so we don't know what they're saying. Just mind your expression. When you're talking, you could be going, that was a good laugh, that, wasn't it? I don't really care. I'm going to be away from here next season anyway. But just don't manage to keep your mouth downturned. The thing I take of that is Kabari that Hearts got. They got him from Estonian football. Burkina Faso International, they got him from Estonian football. And this is the thing with Spain. The way Hearts have got things set up. I'm looking at Spain. I'm thinking Spain because I've written down these two big notes on this jotter here, and they just say, we have lost twice since A, the TAV announcement, B, the trip to Spain. I don't mean Rob Brydon and Steve Coogan's trip to Spain, but the trip to Spain, the training camp at La Manga. And luckily for my reputation as a Rangers intellectual, as a Rangers podcaster, I was on twice as many pods as I'd usually be on the Friday that TAV had announced, the weekend. The TAV had just announced, maybe on the Thursday, his retirement, and we'd come back from Spain with this training camp in Spain, and we're just going into the post-split fixtures, the game against Motherwell. What do you think about that, Alex? So twice as many pods as usual, I was going, I think it's fine. I think it's not going to have Tav retiring. It's going to be fine. It's a good time to announce it. Going to Spain training camp. It's not a midwinter training camp because it's common sense, and I hate the phrase common sense. It's footballing sense. It's footballing sense. This is what the Germans do. We had a free weekend. Get the guys together. It's been a traumatic season, and just talk a wee bit of tactics and get everybody feeling tighter and more friendly and more united as a team. It's going to be absolutely fine. We've lost both games since. So both of those things that I said were probably going to be all right have turned out an absolute nightmare. I don't know if Tav. I think if Tav hadn't announced he was retiring, the way he seemed to be getting caught out at the back post for Hearts equaliser the other night would have had people screaming for his retirement. So it still maybe proves that it was the right thing to do. Tav announcing that he was going to be not retiring but leaving Rangers in the summer. But the two games we've had since, we've lost both of them. The trip to Spain, did Danny Röhl give them too much information? It can't be wrong to take it. It can't be wrong. I know I was saying on Jersey Night with Brian that, everything, in the brain tells you it's the right thing to do. Get a team together, warm weather, they could more likely to get injured training in the cold at Auchenhowie. They might be away doing things like getting fined £2,000 and banned for a year for driving, because they're doing some drunk driving or something. You just have them under the watch of the Rangers management team and bring all the players together. They'd be training in that anyway, so there's no greater risk of injury and anything. Create a bit of team. It makes sense. It's just we're a bit superstitious because of the way things went wrong after the last few times we had a midwinter training camp. I'm pointing like that because that's midwinters over there. So it's absolutely fine to go on this trip, and then they come back and they lose both games. I'm trying to think of what could have went wrong, and I wonder if Danny Röhl gave them too much information, because we did try the 4-2-2, the 4-2-2-2 formation without Nadiri and without Romans in our very first game back. And I don't know if the 6 goals we scored at Falkirk, particularly the 5 we scored in the second half, when it looked like we could score whenever we wanted. We'd kind of come through something in the first half at Falkirk, and it went out the images were brilliant in the second half, scoring goals for fun. Majovski's got 2, Chermiti's got 2. I thought, this can work. And he thought, I just need to talk to players, just get them together, give them a few wee seminars, and I'll tell them how we can play the 4-2-2-2. But Danny Röhl only started playing when he brought in those 4 signings of his own in January. I can make it work without Romans, without Nadiri. Majovski knows how to do that, and I'm going to train up Jaden Magoma. He'll know how to do the Romans role, just the same way I'll get Majovski trained up to do the Nadiri role. And it hasn't worked. And maybe he's lost a bit of face in the dressing room because of that. Maybe that was being set up as being that's going to be our approach for the rest of the post-split, because look, maybe the players are feeling great about how we scoring the 6 goals against Falkirk, and the head coach Dan Röhl's in there going, well, I'm going to teach you how we can do that every game. That's the Red Bull thing's all about, the Red Bull tactics, the 4-2-2-2, you can do that every game if you just learn how to do the things that Nadiri and Romans do, because they're not going to be back for the first 2 post-split games, and it really hasn't worked. He's lost a bit of face, and maybe it's meant that 2 weeks of tactical thinking, 2 weeks of tactical instruction are done the shitter after our first couple of games back after the split. I don't know. Basically, I do not know what is going on, but that's bad. Hearts, we're looking at Hearts and seeing what they've done. They're basically got 1 point more Hearts just now than we got for the whole of last season. There's only 3 games left. They've got 1 point more than we got the whole of last season, and that, I think, sums up what they have actually achieved. They're way ahead of their 10-year plan because Rangers and Celtic have collapsed this season. So I don't mean that a bit. I mean, they're taking advantage of it. They're playing the cards as it, and it's actually more pressure on them. You're trying to get a new system going. You get this data analysis model that players you've got coming in, a new manager coming in. Massive change for them in the summer as well. Tony Bloom takes his 29% share of Hearts. Whatever, changes everything. We've massive change, hasn't worked for us. Hearts have made it work, so all credit to them. But I think the points they're on just now, normally in most seasons, because we finished, 16, 17 points behind Celtic last season, being on 75 points. Hearts are on 76 points just now. It should be a spectacular third place. It should be a really brilliant third place. It's still a massive achievement for Hearts, but Rangers and Celtic should be ahead of them, by the normal rules of the SPFL Premiership, and it's a great base on which Hearts build. Because Tony Bloom said it'd be 10 years' time. In 10 years, Hearts could be champions of Scotland. Well, they're way ahead of that. But that should be the kind of base. It's actually perfect for a really strong third place finish, way ahead in the team. In fourth place, Hearts would be, and they'd have beaten Rangers and Celtic at least once each, and we'd be going, oof, better watch ourselves with them. But Rangers and Celtic have just made such arses of themselves this season. Hearts haven't cracked under the unexpected pressure of them leading the whole way. So I'm no way denigrating what Hearts have done. It's like saying Celtic didn't deserve to win the league all the times Rangers won the lower leagues. It's like that's our fault. It's no Celtic's fault. And Hearts have been faced with something they're not used to. Leading from the front of the top flight, the pressure of doing it for the first time in 66 years. That's one of the reasons we'll be looking to do it for the first time in 6 years now, winning the league. They've been fantastic, but it's the start of a 10-year plan. It wouldn't surprise me if they signed Tav in the summer. It's all based on stats. It's all based on consistency, and it's consistency of a level. I know it's a big frustration for us looking around the other night, looking at all the players that are playing for Hearts and thinking, Shanklin, we were supposed to sign Shanklin in the summer. That's inexcusable. We've had a couple of times we should have signed Lawrence Shanklin. That's, again, I think he'd have been slaughtered if he came to Rangers and was probably posting the same numbers he's got for Hearts, because we'd be expecting more of him. He's Scottish. He has been abroad, but only at German Albeershot. I don't know. I think now, if he gets a league winners medal, we'll have lost the snobbery that's probably going to be in the stands about Lawrence Shankland. But he'll be 31 years old this summer. It's still able to get good use out of him for a couple of seasons, but we've just doubled what we'd have to pay for him. We didn't have to pay anything for him all too recently. So yeah, he's the crown jewel, Lawrence Shanklin. But we look at guys like Craig Halkett, Stuart Finlay, even Claudio Braga. He would never have come under our radar. Stephen Kingsley, Mark Leonard, like Craig Halkett, Rangers youth players. No good enough, see you later. And that's something that happens. Players can be bad at youth level and need to get out and get some development about them. We do that as policy at Rangers, farming teams out to other clubs in the lower leagues in Scotland to turn them into men, basically, and see what they're like as their bodies change, as they become men, because can they improve? Are they going to go backwards? But Derek McInnes was treated laterally by Aberdeen fans, that is, the same way we've been treating Tav for the last 5 years. Instead of seeing, on the outside, we were looking at Aberdeen with Derek McInnes thinking, why do you want to sack him? He's the only reason you're hanging about the top end of the table. He's the only thing that's keeping you up there all the time. Even at that point, we all know about Aberdeen dicing with relegation and stuff like that, being saved by league reconstruction and things like that. Derek McInnes was the most consistent manager they'd had, but he was just reminding them of how good things could be. How good they were under Alec Ferguson. That's what a coincidence, by the way. Alec Ferguson nearly carking it at the weekend. The last guy to win the league as manager of a team outside Rangers and Celtic, a non-Old Firm team. The last guy to win the league in Scotland as manager of a non-Old Firm team. Maybe the fact that he recovered at Old Trafford after getting taken away from Old Trafford the other day, maybe that's a sign that Hearts were going to beat Rangers. He's going to live to see somebody else doing what he did back in 1980, 1984 and 1985. But we were all looking at, but Aberdeen, we want rid of him. He's no Alec Ferguson. We're no winning stuff. It's no good enough. It's kind of embarrassing us by being the best thing we've got, and we still aren't winning anything. It's reminding us how far we've fallen. That's the same as with James Tavernier. That's why he's a real Rangers legend as far as I'm concerned, because the resources were never there for Tav that were there for Laudrup and Gascoigne and these kind of guys. It's Hearts have looked at Derek McInnes and said, yeah, come and do that with us. Provide that level of consistency. Craig Halkett, 100-odd games for Livingston. We knew Halkett was a player. We knew he was good. He's a pain in the arse to us when he's playing for Livingston. Really good player. But we're kind of like, jobber. And he goes to Hearts and he's a bit of a jobber there. But he's 100-odd games for Hearts. So they keep him on this season. He's central to everything they're doing. Stuart Finlay, he's been everywhere, like Kilmarnock a couple of times. Probably that's when Derek McInnes probably first seen him at Oxford United and all that. There's nothing glamorous about Stuart Finlay's CV. Stephen Kingsley, who scored the equaliser the other night, he's been a Jambo for about 6 years, quite consistent. Him and Kingsley have got about 3 Scotland caps between them. Stuart Finlay. Kizarides, you don't know, except for Debrecen. I was looking up his CV. Debrecen of Hungary We heard of them because I had that kind of horrific Champions League campaign back in the day. They played Man United in the Champions League, the British, but that's the only club he's played for that you'll have heard of. Everybody else is just Greek minnows. Slovakia, Slovenia. He's played, I think, maybe Czech Republic as well. Never heard of anybody Kazarides has played for, and he comes in there and him hitting the post the other night, sets up that equaliser. He's been fantastic for him. And Claudio Braga, Norwegian second division. He was at Moss. I know, Moss in Norway, just after they'd come up from the third flight in Norway, and then he goes to Allison's, and they get to, I think they get promoted to the top flight in the season he leaves. It's a summer season, it's through this. I think he leaves halfway through whatever the season there to go to Hearts last year, and eventually get promoted. But he's only played second division football in Norway. The Portuguese clubs he's played for have got like ground capacities of 1,500. Never heard of them. This is just an amazing spot, and he's already the Players' Player of the Year in Scotland this year, and central to everything Hearts have done. Would we stand for that? I don't know, but this is the data analysis model. The Jamestown Analytics data analysis model, brought in by Tony Bloom. I mean, it got them Neil Critchley as well. I think they were already using it before Bloom took his 29%. But that, plus the consistency they've had this season, and the Motherwell factor as well. Motherwell being kingmakers, I think, this season. It's not just about Rangers and Celtic falling away, but that has helped a condensing of the quality gap in the top six. Rangers and Celtic have fallen way behind what we usually are. We lost last summer 63 goals in Czerny, Igaman and Cyril Dessers leaving the club in the summer. Dessers, big Cyril, hung around to stick away a penalty in the Champions League qualifiers against Bolzenia, but we lost them last summer, and that's 63 goals you've lost. You're changing the whole system to override the need for these players, because everybody's going to score 20 goals each in Russell Martin's system, and that never happened. But we had to get over that kind of thing, and I don't think it's maybe surprising that at this point in time we're struggling. We need to win 2 and draw 1 of our remaining 3 games to finish even just 1 point ahead of the total number of points we got last season. But it's Hearts have just massively improved. And they've dealt with, as I said, Motherwell in there are able to beat everybody. They've beaten Celtic, they've beaten Rangers. I don't know if they have beat Hearts yet. They're giving them a few heart attacks, so they're probably due to beat them in Saturday night and gift the title to Celtic, probably. But there's been a real condensing of the quality, but Hearts have stuck with it. And they've been doing it, I think. It lets them benefit from a unique circumstance, which includes Motherwell being so good and Falkirk being so good and really pushing the Old Firm as well, and the Old Firm going backwards. But they've been doing it since pre-season. Now, I know we brought in Danny Röhl in October, so he's talking a couple of months, but it's a crucial few months. With Derek McInnes knowing exactly what he's doing and getting the players in and having half the players there already at Hearts, and just been doing the same thing all season. We're chopping and changing at the beginning of the season, in the close season, and then during the season as well. An absolute nightmare. But they're way ahead of where they would be in their 10-year plan. And I think the Tony Bloom announcement brought real relief. The 49ers announcement did the same for us, but that's why I wasn't as kind of singing and dancing about it when that announcement was made as a lot of other people were, because I knew all too soon they'd be under pressure. Is it a total collapse? Have Rangers totally? It is a total collapse in terms of winning the title, but it's not that much of a collapse when it's only very recently that it's looked that we're going to win the title. There's a hell of a time to lose 2 games in a row for the first time this season. 2 league games in the bounce, lost for the first time this season as the top 6 starts, as the post-split fixtures start. It's the first time under Danny Röhl that we've lost 2 straight league games. But losing to Hearts at Tynecastle by a single goal while kind of outpossessing them for large chunks of the game this season is no disgrace. It's a fail. It's a fail in the same way that, losing to Porto away from home in Europe's a fail. It's something. Sometimes you do lose them, sometimes you don't. It's that I think you should be looking at Hearts this season as basically playing Celtic at Parkhead most other seasons. It's a fail when you don't win there, but it's not actually a footballing disgrace. What we did the other night. Europe's been horrendous this season. It's been absolutely terrible. But just a few years ago, we couldn't even get into a group stage, so we can't be too down on the team about that. The disgrace if there is one, I think it's losing at home to Motherwell. And even then, that's what the top six is supposed to be about. Danny Röhl was pushing this line as well. It's not a stronger top six this season, just more congested in terms of the quality gap is much reduced, and Motherwell, I say, are kingmakers. Röhl doesn't react to the opposition clearly gaining the upper hand. That's the massive frustration that's happened there. It's until it's too late. With the game against Celtic, we were 2-0 up and then blowing them away in the first half hour, and then we all sat in horror watching it slowly ebbing away in the second half, and we weren't making the changes. Same thing happened the other night. A change was made, but it's seen as like for like, taking off Scott Olsen and bringing on JD Gassama the other night, while Hearts had brought it back to 1 each. And the thing is, having watched that game back, as I say, Hearts had 10 minutes of pressure, and it was instant from the moment they kicked off in the second half. I almost feel as if bringing on Blair Spittle, well, it had a material effect. It was more about a psychological effect, as well as going to the three at the back and pushing the five up into midfield for Hearts and just going man for man on us. I think it was just to trigger Hearts' belief in themselves. Derek McInnes, a bit of psychology there as well. You've got to make a material change. But you heard the Hearts players saying that at the end of the game. We just started getting our game going again. You know, it was just a way to make them believe in themselves, because they've been doing it all season. They've been winning at Tynecastle all season. They've not been losing at Tynecastle all season. They just needed something to get them back into that groove, and they did it. Derek McInnes did it for them by that, but it definitely did have a material effect on us, and that that was us. We lost the plot. We couldn't get on the ball. Even then we were getting on the ball, but it was basically 9 minutes into the second half that they scored the equaliser. They had one shot on target, which didn't get past the penalty spot, but Manny Fernandez had to kind of stretch and stoop to head it away. It was quite spectacular, looked a bit last-ditchy, the clearance. And then they had Claudio Braga managed to get a ball in the box, and there's two of our defenders right on top of him, and he twists and he gets a shot in, but he's been so kind of swamped by markers that it's easy for Jack Butland to save it. But that's 2 shots on target when they've done nothing in the first half. And then they have the ball comes back off the post, comes back out. And I think if James Tavernier watching that again, cold light of day, and seeing some like proper real-time, real-speed replays from other angles, if Tav turns around and puts a foot out, he puts that ball in the back of the net. It's just because when the time it gets to Kingsley, it's slow. He's more time to think about it than Scott Olsen, who's clearly not match fit, or Tav. I'm not really blaming anybody for that one. It's maybe the fact that we let Kizzery just drift into our box is the worst thing about it. But that's it. Hearts get the equaliser, and we immediately, they start hitting the deck, Hearts. There is a lot of injuries, and we start putting the boot in. But that looks like petulance. I think Diamandi might be lucky. I don't know what he did at the back. Stuart Finlay, he's having a go at. I think there's a claim of elbows or something, and then he gets a foul against him straight away from the restart. Diamandi and big Chukwani goes flying into kind of scissor tackles that there's nobody there. He's just trying to block the ball, but he's got in both feet. That looks like a reaction. That looks like people, they're losing the rag the same way we're losing the rag at home. They're trying to make stuff happen, the Rangers players, but it doesn't happen. And it's I think from that point on, it's kind of mostly us that have got the ball. But when Hearts have got it, they look more purposeful, and they take it up to the basically 71 minutes. 71 minutes. They get the second goal, and it's a beautifully constructed goal from a Hearts point of view. Could be much better defended from our point of view. Nobody on Shankland is particularly bad. But no, I think that was it. They basically had about 15 minutes total, I would say, in the whole game where they've properly, actually, materially dominated us with possession and flying into our box, Hearts. They had the free kick just after they went 2-1 up. It was a well-worked move that ends with Blair Spittle having the shot that's bending in. It's going to go inside the post for 3-1. It's a great save from Jack Bond to keep it at 2-1. But it's our failure to do anything with basically the dominance we have. We've dominated the whole first half, and then we dominate for the final 20 minutes plus injury time, 27 minutes of the game. And we've got little spots of attacking and having the ball in the Hearts box while in between Hearts' 2 goals that they score. You know, it's not a complete collapse in terms of the performance. And it's not that we're just completely played off the park. And you can see why the manager, the head coach, is thinking, well, if you just do what I tell you, you've got to learn. You know, but we want him to change it all the time. There's no doubt we should have. We then make like a triple substitution after we're 2-1 down. That feels like too little, too late. But I look at this Rangers team and I just think the manager has got all these players that he keeps getting asked about mentality, and we're asking the mentality, but these guys are just here. They're just arrived. You've got James Tavernier, who has been there for forever, but he's 34 and a half years old now. He's getting phased out the team as it is by Danny Röhl, probably quite rightly. But he's our greatest supply. He's still the greatest assist merchant in the league. And Jack Butland's he's a bit wooden at times. Jack Butland, even though he can be quite good from the penalty spot, saving penalties, he's struggling at times. But then you've got like Manny Fernandez, just arrived this season, just arrived last summer. He was playing with Peterborough. It's a massive step up in terms of it's a different country he's playing in, football wise, completely different atmosphere, different expectations, and he's only just getting bled into the team. He's gone through a real change himself in his ability. And he was a bit of a bomb scare when he first kind of bled into the team, and it was only for League Cup games against Alloa, coming on as a substitute late on. He wasn't seen as a first-team player this season, but in he comes. You've got him, and he's, ever since he started finding a bit of form, the talk has been where he's going to go next season. Nasser Jiga in the team looks great, then looks like a car crash, gets dropped out of the team completely, then comes back in, and now he's getting slated for having a laugh with one of his Burkina Faso teammates. He's on loan his whole career, basically. Doesn't know if he's at Wolves, doesn't know if he's at Red Star Belgrade, doesn't know if he's at Rangers. It's up in the air for him. He's just here this season, he's on loan. Mikey Moore's a child, basically, and he's a lovely fella, and he could take Celtic to pieces again at Parkhead on Sunday, become a hero again, but Spurs are going to stay up. His whole time at Rangers has been as blighted with, is he good enough, is he hitting the heights regularly enough, as it has been. Will he stay? Are Spurs going to get relegated? No, it looks like he's going to go back at the end of the season. Should we try and buy him? He's going to be too expensive. As things stand just now, quite happy to see him leaving, considering the money that it would take to buy him. But I think if you're going to aim something at Danny Röhl, it could be the 4 signings he made in January, which were his signings. 2 of them arrived unfit and have been unfit for most of the time that they've been here. Nadiri got injured, and Chukwuani's been patchy in his performance. Turam's fantastic, but I think he arrived, he was injured, and he was injured again. Skov Olsen, a loan deal, that's actually quite good. That's a merit, that's something of merit for Danny Röhl and for the backroom team, that they've actually decided not to fork out the money to buy him outright. Just, it's a kind of suck it and see situation. We've sucked it. It's a bit tangy. No thanks. He's just no match fit. He's totally lacking in confidence. There was a moment the other night where the ball got played forward 2 or 3 minutes. In fact, it was just into the second minute of the game. We were on a counter attack. It was the first bit of pressure we had, and we knocked the ball up to Skov Olsen, who was in acres of space going down the Hearts right, the kind of inside right channel, and I thought, he nearly got it. You know, he kind of didn't even really extend his leg. It just went past him. It's like if he'd extended his leg in any way, he could have caught the ball, and we were kind of in. But he chased after it and still got it, but it drifted out seriously right by that point in time, so we had to kind of restart the move. But I was like, nearly, and I thought to myself, what? You shouldn't be thinking, he nearly got it. Just try a bit harder there, Skov. Werder Bremen want 9 million for him. Sorry, Wolfsburg want 9 million for him. It should have been, how can you not control that ball? The guy's just no match fit. And it's just not happened for him at all. So maybe those signings should take a bit of a slagging as well, but he's trying something. He's trying the kind of Red Bull system, Danny Röhl. But we need to help push Celtic into third starting this Sunday. If Hearts win on Saturday night, it'll be so much more likely, I think, that we win on Sunday, because it'll be a boot to the nads for Celtic. They'll be seeing their title chances drifting away if Hearts can go 6 points clear of them. With just 2 more games to play for Hearts on the Saturday night. But apart from the legacy change it would inflict, because us going into Champions League while Celtic have to drop into one of the lesser European tournaments, that would be phenomenal. And if the start of the season you said finish above Celtic, you would take that. I do not want to be watching the Scottish Cup final result knowing that Dunfermline winning the thing is still a bad result for Rangers, because if we finish third in the league this season, we would get the Europa League, if Celtic win the Scottish Cup, because they're already in the Champions League spots if they finish second in the league. But if Dunfermline were to beat them in the Scottish Cup, it would push us into the Conference League. So even Celtic getting humiliated in the Scottish Cup final, it would turn out that Martin O'Neill and Neil Lennon had done us over, and I don't want to be in that situation at all. What he doesn't realise, Danny Röhl, is that we're more likely to be turn on him for winning all three of these final games of the season than winning three in a row when it counted. We've seen it too often before. It's like cowardly as far as we're concerned. Oh, you can win now that there's nothing to play for, can't you? But there might still be something to play for. You never know how it goes with the Jambos and what have you. He's reapplying for his job. He's re-interviewing for his own job, as far as I'm concerned, over these next three games. Danny Röhl, if we lose to Celtic, maybe even if we draw with Celtic on Sunday, I would not be surprised if he's gone on Monday. Because I genuinely don't know how the new owners will react. They'll definitely have their own ideas. Andrew Kavanagh's definitely getting into it. I think he might be listening to the fans a bit too much. He's already the 49ers, and it just was 49ers. It wasn't, names weren't mentioned. It was just 49ers were mentioned on a banner in the Roma game at Ibrox this season. Just a kind of a gentle cajoling, but that's how it started. Come on, 49ers, do something about Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell, and they did. Didn't shoot them through the head as those banners at the Roma game were asking them to do, but they did get rid of them. Did get rid of the two of them, and I don't know if we're still in a situation where the fans start booing Danny Röhl and slagging Danny Röhl enough, they'll think, yeah, let's go and get a Frank Lampard type. Let's go and get Steven Gerrard, who I wouldn't have back at Ibrox, but there you are. So I don't really know what's going to happen. It's a hell of a season for them. They didn't aim to be here that much, the new owners. We're going to be absentee owners. We'll only be here if there's a problem. They're here all the time. And they just haven't been away from the place. But no trophies, no real European stability, far less any kind of continental glory last season. We did at least get to a European quarter-final to dilute the pain of no trophies last season. We still need 2 wins and a draw from our last game, as I say, to get onto the same total of points that we had last summer. The question, I think, for us is, do we want vengeance on our players and managers just by sacking everybody because we're pissed off? Does not changing the head coach for the sake of stability, is that as big a mistake as it is just keeping than getting rid of Danny Röhl just now? I don't think Danny Röhl was brought in to win the league this season, so therefore I don't think he's due to be sacked. I would like to see how he gets on as Rangers head coach next season, but my enthusiasm for that has been seriously dented by the way things have happened. But I think I'm just still suffering from the fact that for a while it looked like we could win. A few weeks it looked like we could win the league. We really haven't. But do we want to be just taking out anger on the players and the managers, or do we actually want to get what's best for Rangers? They might not be mutually exclusive. Maybe getting rid of Danny Röhl and his coaching staff is what's best for Rangers just now, angry or not, in the sacking of them. But too often I feel that it's just a case of change for change's sake. We want to win. We've gone 5 years now without a league title. It'd be a lovely change to win the league. We haven't managed that. Let's affect a different kind of change. But I'm going to have to trust Kavanagh and Marathi. Despite the fact that they are the owners. We don't have anybody else that's going to take over Rangers with their kind of money. We do have money. That's a massive change to the way things have been over the past few years. But it's also, this season, I think, is a particular failure in that we did nothing in Europe. And I don't want to turn my nose up at being in a European group stage. That's a kind of minimum thing for Rangers. That's the minimum kind of baseline of European success for Rangers and the current the coefficients, the current mise en scène in European football. For us to be in a group stage, that's fine. Don't really want to get humiliated in it as we pretty much did this season, but that's never been put on Danny Röhl because Russell Martin was there at the start of the group stage. But Danny Röhl had 6 of those European games, and it's 7. Did he have 7? No, it was Genk and Sturm Graz was Russell Martin. So it's and he started the mentality thing, Russell Martin, in the post-match interview for the Sturm Graz game when we lost that one away from home. And it's like we're back to mentality again. I think as fans we want it to be emotional. We want to be able to say those players just lack the balls to go out there and do it properly, because therefore I can have the satisfaction of seeing them sacked and just getting guys with bigger balls and we'll win it. We'll win everything. sometimes you have to build something. You have to build something. And Hearts, as I say, they've only been at it not much longer than ourselves, but what they've built is absolutely amazing, and it should be a lesson to us as well. Just it's consistency. We just need to get some sort of consistency in a football team that starts with the owners, it starts with the amount of money we've got, right? Well, they're just coming to their second season, and the next person is the head coach. I think he's done enough, Danny Röhl, to earn a second chance at it. But that being said, he starts on Sunday re-interviewing for his own position. Right, I'm going to go away and watch Bayern against Paris Saint-Germain. It could be the match of the century, folks. I'd recommend you watch it as well. Get yourself back into football, and I'll come back and do a properly short. That was a short pod. I know in 5 minutes. Christ, Rangers. I'll do a properly short podcast before the game against the silly tick at the weekend. Thanks for your time, folks. I'm not trying to advertise Labour there in the back. It's a Labour campaign leaflet. It's just the fact they said scunnered right across it. I thought, well, that's how we're all feeling, isn't it? Just go and vote for whoever you want to be Rangers manager on the 7th. Cheers, troops.